So can you read number 1 for me of the homework? Okay.
Yes.
What is number 1 in the homework?
En invierno yo prefiero esquiar.
How do I pronounce the QU?
Esquiar.
Perfecto. Muy bien. QU is K.
Yeah.
So,
Esquiar.
esquiar. Esquiar. Muy bien. Excellent job. Right? So, I know that most of these words you probably didn't know before, right? What is invierno, Georgi?
Winter.
Winter, right? Did you know that before doing this exercise?
I heard one time.
Okay, all right. So now we know it's invierno. Invierno. Okay, invierno. So there's many ways to practice words, right? One of them is called chunking together. Chunking. Okay, chunking. When we talk about a chunk of something, is like, imagine a cake. A chunk is like a big part of the cake, a chunk, right? And when we chunk together, what we're doing is we're joining a lot of words together because they're related. What would be chunking for invierno? Verano, primavera, otoño. What are all these words?
Seasons.
Perfect. What would be verano?
Summer.
Summer, primavera.
Spring.
Muy bien. ¿Y otoño?
Autumn. Fall.
Perfecto. Muy bien. Did you know all of these words?
Yes, I heard it once again.
Perfecto.
Yes.
Okay. So chunking together is this. Now, what is another way of learning things? Homophones. Right? What are homophones? Phones means it sounds, like phonetics. Phones means that it sounds. Homo means the same. Right? So homophones are words that sound the same as invierno. So you can think of infierno. Now this is a little bit dangerous because if you think of it, you might confuse them. But you're learning them is to separate them. So if in a sentence someone says infierno, you're not thinking, wow, he's talking about winter. No, infierno is hell. Right? Infierno is where you go if you behave bad, Georgi. Right? Okay? All right. So, homophones. And the other way that we learn, right, that we can chunk together, that we can learn vocabulary and help practice vocabulary is through antonyms. Antonyms. Right? And that would be the equivalent of saying verano in this case, because it's a season. But when it's a word like, for example, abril, for example, right? Abril, you can think of abril, which is April. So it's a similar word, but a completely different meaning, right? Abril means to open. Abril is April. You can think of other months in the year, other actions. So, for example, what is another action that is an antonym? Cerrar, to close. Okay, so this would be the antonym. This would be, are there any other words that are similar to abrir besides cerrar, which is the antonym? Not much, because abrir and cerrar are pretty much just those two, right? Okay, so that's kind of how these works. So you either talk about chunking, homophones, or antonyms, or all three. Okay? Excellent. Right, muy bien. Okay. Infierno, invierno, y así. All right. En invierno, in winter, yo prefiero esquiar. What does that sentence mean?
At winter, I skiing. I'm skiing.
Prefer.
Yeah, I prefer skiing.
I prefer to ski, right? In winter, I prefer to ski. Now, again, remember what we talked about last class. This is a random example. Just any example, right? I want an example that is actually real, right? What is something that you actually prefer, Georgi? What is something that you
invierno,
prefer?
yo prefiero snowboard.
Prefiero
snowboarding. I don't know how.
En invierno, yo prefiero snowboarding is in English because there's no translation. Snowboarding. Okay. But it doesn't have to be exactly like this sentence. For example, Georgi, yo prefiero el clima caliente en vez de el clima frío. I prefer warm climate instead of, all of this is instead of cold climate. What's another thing that you prefieres, que tú prefieres? What is something that you prefer?
Yo prefiero té negro en vez de café.
Yo prefiero té negro.
Té negro.
Té negro en vez de café. Muy bien. Excelente. See? So now the verb preferir kind of makes more sense. The next time you think of the verb preferir, you're going to think of this example. The winter one is too specific, but this is an everyday example. You go to someone's house and they say, Georgi, ¿quieres café? You say, no, lo siento, yo prefiero té negro en vez de café. Gracias. See? So, okay, use some black tea. Perfect. Right? So, it's a real example that you can use to remember. Right? Muy bien. Número 2, ¿qué dice?
El camarero no recomienda el pescado.
Okay.
Waiter
right.
do not recommend fish.
The fish, right? The waiter does not recommend the fish. Okay. Georgi, what is the ending of the verb recomendar?
Recomendar, AR. Recomienda. El camarero no recomienda.
El camarero no recomienda el pescado. Perfecto, muy bien. Right? El camarero no recomienda el pescado. The waiter does not recommend the fish. No recomienda el pescado. Very good. Everything else about it is perfect. Camarero they say in Spain. In Colombia we say mesero, which means like a tabler, like the person of the table. Table is mesa. And mesero is like the tabler, like the person that goes to the table, takes everything. Right? That is that. Okay. Número 3.
¿Quién enciende el fuego en la hoguera?
¿Quién enciende el fuego en la hoguera? Perfect. Very, very good. Okay. Before we continue, we want a more real example for the verb recomendar, right? So, recomendar would be, what is something that you recommend that I do, Georgi? That I do in my life? You're older than I am, so you have a lot of wisdom, right? And advice. So give this young man some advice. What do you recommend?
Yo recomiendo no fumar.
No fumar. Muy bien. Yo recomiendo no fumar. I recommend not to smoke. Very, very good. Excellent. Okay. All right. Muy bien. ¿Tú fumas?
No.
No.
Only weed. Very, very rare. Only weed.
Okay. All right. Muy bien. So, yo recomiendo no fumar. Yo recomiendo no fumar is an excellent example. Good job. All right, muy bien. Now, we said, ¿quién enciende el fuego?
How to say weed, actually, by Spanish?
Okay, so the formal word, like the typical word is...
No, it's not right translation. Because weed, it's like a different word.
Right, exactly. So what happens is, that's what happens. So in Colombia, they have slang for it here. In Spain, they're going to have slang for it there. In the US, each country has their own slang, usually because they want to not... how do I say it? They want to avoid the police finding out, so they invent these typical words, right? But let me see what it says here. For example, here, let me see here. They say here, right? So these are what Google tells me, and I've seen some of these here in Colombia, so it kind of makes sense, right? So this one is
Moda.
This one is
Mafo.
This one is
Juana, Juanita. Yeah, it's more slang.
Herba. It's more slang. This
Herba.
one,
I think it's close. Herba, close to wheat, right?
It is exactly that, because what happens in English, right? When you're talking about weeds in the garden, it's the plants that grow that are bad for the garden because they take away the nutrition for the flowers. So when you have a garden, you have to eliminate the weeds, right? And so in Spanish, that is the word for that, for these bad plants, right? But every time that people say it informally, they say this word. Here in Colombia, so I'm guessing in Spain they do the same thing. Okay, so these are I've also heard this one in Colombia. I've also heard this one in Colombia. This one I've never heard. This one I've never heard, and this one I've never heard. But these two I've heard. Right? Muy bien. Excelente. Okay. So that is that. Right? Muy bien. Okay. Here we go. All right. So, ¿quién enciende el fuego en la hoguera? Who lights the fire in the fireplace, right? Now, the verb encender means to light, but it also means to turn on. So, for example, how do I say who turns on the light?
¿Quién?
¿Quién?
Entienden. No clue.
¿Quién enciende la luz?
La luz. Okay, enciende
la luz.
Okay.
¿Quién enciende la luz? Who turns on the light? ¿Sí? ¿Quién enciende la luz? Muy bien. Excelente. So that is that. All right? Muy bien. All right, good job. Next one, número 4. What does it say?
Ustedes entienden las instrucciones del profesor. You entienden. You follow instructions of the teacher. No?
You follow instructions of the teacher. No. It's you guys understand. Remember, entender we said was to understand.
Okay.
You guys do, you guys yes. Ustedes sí, you guys do, you guys yes, understand the instructions of the professor. Like, do you guys understand the instructions of the professor? Yes, we do. Okay? So that is that. That is número 4. Ustedes sí entienden las instrucciones del profesor. Give me the verb entender in a more real example. What is the verb entender in a more you example?
Okay. Yo entiendo español profesor.
Español profesor.
Solo con traducción.
Solo con traducción. Solo con traducción. Solo con traducción. Okay. I understand the Spanish teacher only with translation. See? I understand the Spanish teacher only with translation. Okay. In Spanish, you're going to see that a lot of times when we have two nouns that describe each other, we have to use the structure noun, de, noun. Okay? For example, if I want to say, for example, an office computer, right? So an office computer, it's the computer that belongs to the office. This is an office computer, right? Hey, were you working on the office computer or your personal computer, right? So in Spanish, this would look like computadora de oficina. What is the main thing? The computer. What describes it? The office. Computadora de oficina. You see? So typically we have.
Also, I heard that computer in Spanish, ordenador or something like this. No?
In Spain, they don't say computadora. You are completely. They say ordenador.
Yeah, it's from French.
From French, exactly. That is correct. That is correct. I remember when I took French in university. Yes, ordenador. Ordenador. See? They don't say computadora. They will say that here in Colombia. You're right. You're right. Okay. So ordenador de oficina. But that's the thing, right? We first put the main noun. If we're talking about a computer, so ordenador. But the ordenador is de oficina, so it's ordenador de oficina. Ordenador de gobierno, the government computer, right? Ordenador de whatever it is, you're gonna say use noun de noun. For example, if I want to say water, what is water?
Water. Liquid. Substantial. Agua. Yeah.
Agua, right?
Okay.
Now, if I want to talk about the sea, the ocean, what do I say? Mar.
Agua de mar.
Agua de mar. Yes, seawater. Now, here we're talking about a teacher, but this teacher is a Spanish teacher. So how do I say that in Spanish?
Okay. Profesor de español. Yeah.
Profesor de español. Perfect. ¿De español? Exactly. Okay. Profesor de español. Yo entiendo al profesor de español. ¿Ok? Yo entiendo al profesor de español.
Ok.
Ok. A ver aquí, profesor de español. That is perfect. Solo con traducción. Solo con traductor. Well, only with a translator. Right? Only with a translator. Yo entiendo al profesor de español solo con traductor. That is a perfect sentence. Muy bien. Excelente. Excelente. All right. Número 5. What does it say?
5. Kelly. Think before the answer.
No, número 5. Number 5. Número 5.
El presidente de Brasil gobierna con aprobación del Congreso. President of Brazil, yeah, de Brazil. How to say, to put on his place by Congress, like something like this.
So gobierna means to govern, right? To govern. So it's like he governs. He has this power. He governs, right? So el presidente de Brasil, the president of Brazil, governs with the approval, la aprobación of Congress, right? So the president of Brazil makes a law, but the Congress must approve that law, right? Okay. That is, the president of Brazil governs with the approval of Congress. He can't just say, I want to do this, and that's it. No, he has to put the law, and the Congress will accept it, and it will go through, right? Muy bien, muy bien. Okay. Número 6.
Kelly thinks before the answer.
Kelly thinks before the answer. Kelly always thinks before the answer. And it's not the answer, because how do I know it's not the? Remember when we saw articles? When we saw el and el, la, los, las, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we saw this, we said, okay, when do we use articles? Only with nouns. And always when we have a noun, we either have an article, or we have mi, or tú, or su, or nuestro, which means that this belongs to us, this belongs to me, this belongs to you, this belongs to, to him or her, right? Or sometimes we have a este, ese, esta, esa, which means this or these. So when I say this cup, este vaso, este vaso. Mm-hmm. When I say my cup, mi vaso, but because vaso is a thing, it's a noun. Mm-hmm. Or when I say the cup, el vaso, but it has to be one of these three. Mm-hmm. Here, antes de responder is not a noun, because there's no the. There's no the, there's no this, there's no my. So in this case, responder is to answer, to respond, right? So Kelly always thinks before responding. Mm-hmm. Okay? Kelly always thinks before responding. Piensa is correct, right? Can you give me a sentence with the verb pensar? Piensa.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yo pienso por traductor.
Yo pienso por traductor. What does that mean?
I think for translation.
I think, but I get it, because the por is good, the traductor is the translator, the thing that translates, right? But what does that mean? Like, I think about it?
Maybe a traducción, something like this.
Traducción, but you're thinking about a translation? Like, I'm thinking about how to translate? Like, that's what you mean?
I'm thinking for translation. Just, for example, hold on. I need to think for translation. Something like this.
Okay, but in English, we don't say think for translation. In English, we say I'm thinking about something. So I'm thinking about the translation of this. I'm thinking about you. Thinking about. So in English, we say thinking about, right? And in Spanish, you can say pensar, and most, like 90% of the time, it's with the preposition in. If you just say pensar, it means to think. But if you want to think about this, I'm thinking of this, or I'm thinking that, you're going to say pensar en. Or pensar sobre, but that's not as common. But you can hear it. But it's more pensar en. Okay? So,
yo pienso en traducción.
La traducción. La traducción. Very good. Because the translation is the thing, the noun, and we need the article. Perfect. That's what's telling the listener, hey, traducción is not to translate, it is translation. So, la, or mi, or esta, this translation. Yo pienso en la traducción. Perfect. Perfect. Muy bien. Excelente. Excelente. Okay. So that is yo pienso en la traducción. And then number 7, what does it say?
El guardia cierra las puertas del palacio.
El guardia cierra las puertas del palacio. Very good pronunciation. What does that mean?
Security closed the gate of palace.
Security, the guard, right? The security guard, right? Closes, because it's not closed. We haven't learned the past tense yet. So far, this is only the present. Closes the gates or the doors to the palace. Perfect, right? What is another sentence, more yours, about the verb cerrar?
Let me read. Yo cierro los ojos antes de dormir.
Yo cierro los ojos antes de dormir. Perfecto. Yo cierro los ojos antes de dormir. Cierro los ojos antes de dormir. Muy bien. Yo cierro los ojos antes de dormir. All right? Perfecto. Muy bien. So I close my eyes before going to bed or before sleeping. Right? I close my eyes before going to bed. Excellent. Okay? Now, you probably didn't know this, right? But this exercise, I did it on purpose, was only for E to IE stem changing verbs. This is all you practice here. And I could have given you an exercise of only O to UE stem changing verbs. Or only E to I stem changing verbs. Okay? I have a link here, right? That is for like, it's sort of like a list of stem changing verbs that I have that I use to like explain this to a lot of students, right? So I'm gonna send it to you so that you can see it here, right? Okay, give me 1 second because that link is here. Here, this one. Okay. All right. So this is a link that I use to explain this to a lot of students. I created it. What it does is it first explains it in English, right? And then it gives you 3 lists, okay? The first one is going to be typical E to IE stem changing verbs. Now, some of these are useful, some of them are not. Don't focus on the ones that are not. Acertar, to guess or to get something right. How often did you say, oh, I got it right? Not that often. But how often do you say to light something, to turn something on? That one's very common. But we know this is going to be yo enciendo, yo acierto, yo advierto, yo entiendo, yo cierro. Because all of these are IE. What would be comenzar, just by looking at it? What would be comenzar for yo?
Yo comienzo.
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 Perfecto. What would be fregar for yo?
Yo frigo.
Friego.
Yo friego.
Yo friego los platos. I wash the dishes, right? I friego los platos. What would be the verb confesar for yo? To confess.
Yo confieso.
Perfecto. What would be the verb to lie for yo? We saw this last class.
Yo menzo.
Miento.
Miento.
Miento. Muy bien, right? What would be the verb to deny? He's denying that he did that. What is the verb to deny?
Yo niego.
Muy bien. You see? So when you learn them like this, you kind of just start hearing it. And it just becomes a little bit more natural. At first, it's like very weird. Like, nego, is it niego? Is it niogo? Is it no, it's niego. Okay. Convierto. Pienso. And like I said, en. Pienso is one of these verbs that almost 90% of the time you use it with en. Right? Defiendo. Pierdo. I hate playing football because yo siempre pierdo. I always lose. I hate going to the casino because yo siempre pierdo. I always lose. Pierdo. ¿Sí? Empiezo, to begin. Right? ¿Cuándo empiezas? When do you begin? ¿Cuándo empiezas las clases? O yo empiezo las clases. ¿Sí? Or prefiero, which is the other one we saw. Then it goes to stem changing verbs from O to UE. It explains a little bit, and then it gives you the rules. And like I said, it only changes everything but nosotros and vosotros, and again, right? So, for example, what is the list? Almuerzo, muero, apruebo, muestro, cuelgo, muevo. Almorzar to lunch, morir to die, aprobar to approve. Let's continue. Cuento. What is this one, Georgi? Probar.
Probar. Proof, test, sample, taste.
What is the correct
yo
pronunciation for yo? The conjugation.
Yo probo.
Pruebo. You see the ue? These are O-to-U-E. Ue. What is the verb almorzar for yo?
Pruebo. Almorzar.
Pruebo, muy bien.
Almuerzo. Almuerzo.
Almuerzo.
Almuerzo.
Perfecto, muy bien. Morir for yo.
Yo muero. Yo muero.
Muero. Aprobar for yo.
Yo apruebo.
Perfecto. Mostrar for yo.
Yo muestro.
Wherever you see the O, you gotta change it for ue. Ue. Colgar for yo. You're doing a good job.
Yo cuelgo.
Perfecto. Yo cuelgo. I hang.
Cuelgo.
Yo cuelgo la ropa. I hang the clothes to dry. Yo cuelgo. See? So all of these are ue. Muevo, cuento, pruebo, cuesto, recuerdo, devuelvo, resuelvo, vuelvo, ruego, duermo, to sleep, yo duermo, right? Yo duermo mucho, yo no duermo nada, I don't sleep at all. Sueno, all of these. Encuentro, to find. Georgi, no encuentro mi celular. No encuentro mi celular. I can't find my phone. See? Very good, right? And then E to I. So the E to I verbs. What are the E to I verbs? Here we have a list. Bendigo, I bless. Impido, I impede. This is not a word. Don't worry about it. I don't even know why. Coligo? No. All right, that was just a weird word. Maldigo, I curse. Right? Like, fuck, shit. Compito. I'm changing the E's for an I. So yo compito, I compete. Yo compito en la competencia. What would be the verb medir for yo?
Yo mido.
Yo mido. I measure. Yo mido. See? Or that's how you say, like, I am this tall. You say yo mido 2 metros. Yo mido 2 metros. I measure 2 meters. Like I'm this 2 meters tall. I'm not 2 meters. I wish. I am 187. 187. Yeah? E meters. I'm that tall. ¿Sí? ¿Cuánto mides, Georgi? ¿Cuánto mides?
Yo mido.
Muy bien.
Yo mido, let me help. 180
centímetros. Centimeters, 180 centímetros. Ajá, muy bien, excelente. ¿Sí? Yo mido 180. Muy bien. So yo mido. Yo consigo. Yo pido. I ask for or I order. Yo pido pizza todos los viernes. I order pizza every Saturday, every Friday.
Yo pido productos. Yo pido productos de Amazon.
Yo pido productos de Amazon. Perfecto. Yo pido productos de Amazon. Muy bien. ¿Sí? Perfecto. All right. Corrijo, persigo, digo, río, despido, repito. The list goes on. But the more you hear them together, the more it's easy to start to understand, so you train your ear. Because if you say corrijo, but then also devuelvo, but then also miento, It's mien, we, y. Like, where is it, when, why, this. Now, there's no rule for this, right? A lot of students, they get a little bit stressed. They say, oh, Andres, I want the rule. I want the rule to know when is it E to IE, when is it, E to I, and when is it O to UE. And there's no rule.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you have to like learn them that way, right? And so that makes it a little bit difficult, but it's possible, right? It's just a question of like learning it that way. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that is that, right? Okay, excellent.
Can you drop me, please, all of them to message?
Of course. All right. I'm going to send you this here in the chat. Okay. I'll send you the link. Can you try to open it, see if it works?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Try to open it, see if it works. And if not, then I'll send it again or something.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it works.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right. There we go. Mm-hmm. So that is the verbs that we're going to be looking at that are stem changing verb. You know how to use them. It's just a matter of sitting down and practicing. Give me a second because my computer's running out of battery. So I gotta charge it. To charge it. All right.
How to say my battery is dying?
Is dying or is dead? Like it's already...
Is dead.
Is dead. You can literally say the battery is dead, like just like in English. So you say mi batería. Past tense of to die is murió. Mi batería murió. Ay, lo siento, mi batería murió.
Mm-hmm.
¿Sí? Mi batería murió. Good job. Yeah, I like these little sentences. When you're curious about something, ask me, right? Because this is the past tense. We haven't seen the past tense, and it's irregular and this and that. But just knowing this and practicing it, when we see it, you're like, so that's why it's mi batería murió. I already knew mi batería murió, but now I understand where it comes from when we actually see it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good job. Mi batería murió. Okay, so that is stem changing verbs, right? So far we've talked about, last class we talked a little bit about, let me see if I have it here, irregular verbs like this, right? Yeah. So we talked about stem changing verbs. Big category, we know how to use them. Next time I tell you, oh, Georgi, this is a stem changing verb of this type, you're going to say, I got you, okay? What is the next type of verb, right? So copy and paste here. So the next type of irregularity, right, are almost regular verbs. Now, this is not the actual name, like in grammar. This is what I call them, right? This is just the way that I call them, okay? But there's an actual name for them and everything, but it's not important, right? I call these almost regular verbs. When something is almost regular, it's because it's not regular, but it looks really, really regular. It's going to follow this. It's going to be like this. It's just that what happens with this, the first person, also known as the yo, is the only irregular conjugation. The first person is the only irregular conjugation. Do you have your little wheel? Do you have it there?
Yeah.
Yeah? So in this little wheel, right, I want you to look at the verb. What could be a verb that is very similar to one of the regular verbs? Look at the verb hacer. Hacer should be on that wheel. Hacer. Do you know what hacer means?
Yeah, hacer is do.
To do or to make, right? To do or to make. Okay? So when we have the verb hacer, to do or to make, how does hacer end?
Just a second.
Right, don't worry. Remember, it's in alphabetical order, so it should be where the H is.
So hacer, and what was the question?
What is the ending of the verb hacer?
Yo aso.
Wait. So the ending is er, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the verb hacer is gonna follow the rules of what verb? Hablar, comer, or vivir.
Comer.
Comer. Perfect. Right? The verb hacer is like the verb comer. So if we treat the verb hacer like a regular verb, so I'm gonna put this down here, and we're gonna zoom in here. If we treat the verb hacer like a regular verb, it's supposed to look like this. It's supposed to look like yo blah blah blah, but tú haces, él hace, nosotros hacemos. All right, give me a second. I have to make this a little bit smaller. Okay. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's copying the verb comer. Tú comes, él come, nosotros comemos. It's following the same rules. It's being treated like a regular verb. And this is true. This is actually true. Like this is not just me writing. You remember when we did stem changing verbs that I wrote it first incorrectly and then we changed the UE? Mm-hmm. No, this is correct. Tú haces, él hace, nosotros hacemos, right? Él hace, nosotros hacemos, ellos hacen, vosotros hacéis, ellos hacen. But the only irregular one, the only one that is different, is the yo. Mm-hmm. Where is the yo? The yo is yo hago. Mm-hmm. What happens? If it were regular, it's supposed to be yo hago. Mm-hmm. Yo hago. C-A-C-O and C-U are ka-ko-ku. Mm-hmm. C-E and C-I are se. Because the yo is the only one that's going to have the strong sound, because ER is going to be an E, so es, hemos, es, right? Mm-hmm. The verb hacer finishes with a C in the stem. So if this has an E, it's going to be s, but the yo is going to be k, because it's the only one that ends with O. The rest of them have an E. So it's yo-ako. And maybe many, many years ago, it was yo-ako. Mm-hmm. But ako doesn't roll off your tongue. It's not easy to say yo-ako. It sounds too strong. So somewhere, I don't know when, I don't know how, it transitioned into, okay, let's make ako, ago. Yo-ago. Mm-hmm. And it sounds a bit softer. And so now we say yo-ago. Mm-hmm. It's only irregular for yo. Mm-hmm. What are some other verbs that work like this? Other verbs that work like the verb hacer. Okay? Mm-hmm. The verb estar. The verb estar is an almost regular verb. Right? If you follow the verb estar looks exactly like the verb hablar. So if it's tú hablas, it's tú estás. Nosotros hablamos, it's nosotros estamos. Él habla, él está. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. But when it's for yo, it's yo, not yo esto, it's yo estoy. The Y appears out of nowhere for no reason. It's just like that. So estar, hacer, the verb conducir, which means to drive, conocer, which means to meet someone, like have you met my wife, have you met my brother, to meet, conocer, traducir, which means to translate. All of these are regular for tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes, irregular. But for yo, it's a weird thing. Mm-hmm. Okay? And they're all of these are gonna be on your table. So on your little wheel, you're gonna see the stem changing verbs. But you know that those are really they follow a rule. You don't have to look at your table to remember that. You just have to remember that dormir follows the rule of O to UE. You don't need the wheel for that, right? Mm-hmm. If you want, grab your wheel and cut them. You don't need them because you know how to use that. But these you do. you do need the wheel. Because these are kind of hard to just know them. You kind of need them because they're very irregular. So estar, hacer, conducir, conocer, traducir. Okay? These are just some of them. And yeah, these are just some of them. Right? Muy bien. There's another category in Spanish verbs. Okay? And this category here is called what I like to call them is completely irregular verbs. This is what I call them. And these are verbs that are just really irregular, but just like really, really irregular, right? They don't follow many rules. Sometimes they follow maybe like the nosotros ends with no, with the mos. Okay, they follow that rule. But completely irregular verbs are just completely irregular. So I like to think of here the verb ir, the verb ser. Have you ever heard that verb, ir or ser? What is ir?
Go.
To go. Do you know the conjugation of the verb ir?
I heard, but I don't remember.
Voy, vas, van, vamos, vais, van. Where did that V come from? I have no idea. But the nosotros. And now look, ir, if you had to classify it, ir would be an IR verb. Because it's ir. It's IR, right? But look at it. It has an A in almost everything. As, a, amos, ais, an. It follows more the verb hablar. Why? It's crazy. You know? It's like that crazy friend you have. He's just crazy. Right? I don't know why, right? The same thing happens with the verb ser. The verb ser is completely all over the place. Yo soy, tú eres, él es, nosotros somos, ellos son. Vosotros sois, ellos son. This is the verb ser. Again, why is it like this? Why is it like that? Just because. Just because. There's no real reason to it. Right? And so that's what happens with completely irregular verbs. Now, are there a lot of just like completely irregular verbs? No, there's not a lot of them. The verb ser and the verb ir, I think, are the only two. I have to check on that because I don't remember seeing any others, right? But these are just completely irregular verbs. There may be one or two more. Maybe the verb haber, yo, maybe the verb haber is also another one. Well, not maybe. I know the verb haber is another one, but this one's not that common, so I'm not going to put it here. But just know that there could be one or two more, but these are not very common. These are kind of common, but not very common. These are really common. Oof, the orange ones are super, super common. Now, you're probably thinking, Andres, why is there a space here? Because we have to move this over here. We have to move this over to the right here. Okay? Why? Because between these two, right? Between these two, there is a category that is the mixture of the green and the orange. Okay? And that is the red category. What does that mean? How do I mix two categories, right? So give me 1 second. All right, give me bring to front, and there we go, bring to front. Okay, so this is going to be like the mixture of these two. So stem changing, almost regular verbs, almost regular verbs. Stem changing, almost regular verbs. What is an example of this? Again, there's a couple of verbs that are very, very common that are like this. The verb tener is one of those verbs. But again, there's not a lot. They're like the yellow ones. It's very few, but it's, how do you understand it? It's like the green and the orange mixed. So the verb tener is one of those. What is the verb tener? To have, right? Yo tengo, like the verb hacer, yo hago. But everything else is regular? No, everything else changed. Tienes, what changed? This E turned into an IE, but everything else is regular. The ending is regular. Él tiene, right? So él tiene. Sorry. Él tiene. Nosotros never stem changes. Here it never stem changes. Tenemos. It goes back to the original. You see? Tenemos. Right? What about the vosotros? The vosotros is never supposed to stem change. So vosotros tenéis. 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 See? And ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen. That one stem changes again. Yeah, that one does stem change. Right? But that's what this looks like. The verb tener is just irregular, like for the yo, but everything else about it is stem change. So it's like a mixture of the two. This is the distribution. Very common. Kind of common. Not that common, not that common. Right? And this is how we think of irregular verbs. We can't think of irregular verbs like we thought of regular verbs. Regular verbs was this. What is regular verbs? I just follow these rules. O, as, amos, ais, an. Now, all of these, somehow, they follow a little bit of these rules, of the as, is, like that. But they follow it with more steps. More steps. Sometimes changes. Sometimes they don't follow it, like the verb ir. The verb ir is supposed to be like vivir, but it's like hablar. The verb ser, where did that E come from? Why is it eres when it should be soy, sas? No, it's just completely different, right? So you do have to be careful. The majority of these are on this table. I know you know that ir is on that table, ser is on that table, tener is somewhere on that table, dormir, entender, preferir, all of those common ones are on that table. Right? You don't need the table for the orange ones, but you need the table for the green, yellow, and the red because it's going to be hard to know which ones are those. Right? If I were you, in that table with a color marker like a Sharpie, color the ones according to the category. This one's red, and this one's red, and this one's red because they're all the same. This one's yellow, this one's yellow, this one's yellow, all the same. And it helps you remember them and classify them. Remember I told you last class, right now you have all your verbs in this big trash bag, right? But what I'm giving you is color bags so that now you can take out the verb and you say, dormir. This is a stem changing verb of type 1, O-U-E.
Like recycling.
Like recycling. You're recycling with your verbs. Exactly. Right? Okay. Existir. That's a regular verb. Okay, blue. Regular. Existe. Yo existo, tú existes, él existe. Very regular. You don't have to think about it too much. And like that. What does this mean? What does that mean? And the new words that you learn. I received a new verb. Instead of putting it in the black trash bag, you're going to put it already in the category. Organize your room a little bit. Organize your head a little bit. And that's going to help you a lot. Okay?
Okay.
So,
Andreas, can I ask you, I didn't manage about freeform because my operation system too old. Can I ask you just now to put in my folder with my name, and later I will ask just to send a whole folder with that files from freeform.
Okay, all right. Yeah, for sure. Either way, I'll be sending you this in the WhatsApp chat, which is also pretty good. That way you can start to like reference them and everything. But yeah, I'll make a folder with your name, and that way you can see them here, right?
Okay.
1 second here. Okay. That way, because sometimes in the time that you get the free form and everything, it's kind of like difficult. But for now, this. Now, did you do this activity? Did you do this homework? No, right? I didn't send it to you?
No.
No, I didn't send it to you. Yeah, I forgot.
Ah, no. I did it. I did it already done.
9 through 15. We did these in class. You remember?
Yes, I did it. 9 to 15, I suppose.
Ah, yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Very, very good. Okay, so I'll send you this. I'm sending you this right here. All right. Okay, so that you can practice it, and then also what we did today, which was this. Okay. Which was all of this. All right. So again, I'll keep this in here. And for next class, what I'm gonna be sending you is again there in WhatsApp. I'm gonna be sending you the homework that is gonna be irregular verbs. But I'm not gonna tell you, oh, this is stem changing. This is this. I'm just gonna give you the irregular verbs, and you're gonna have to practice. Some of them are regular, some of them are irregular. Just like a mixed exercise of everything, right?
Okay.
Because when we're speaking, it's mixed. It's just mixed. Okay. So remember, you only have to use one of these 5 verbs. One of these 5 blue table verbs right here. Okay? And you have to use one of these 5 verbs. This is the table for conjugation, right? You have to use them to complete this activity here. These sentences right here. These right here. Okay?
Okay.
So you're going to use those 5 verbs to complete these sentences. Okay? Translate the words you don't know. Oh, what is verduras? Verduras. What is verduras? So you write it, verduras. So when next class I ask you, you have the good correct answer.
Okay. This is my home task, right?
Yes, this is your homework. This is the one that is homework. Again, please, it's all there in WhatsApp.
Drop me, yes, please.
Perfect.
So thank you very much.
All right, Georgi, it's always great seeing you. Have an excellent day. Good job today. And next class we will continue. But now we're already starting to see the verbs. Now it's just a matter of practicing. But now I can tell you, oh, Georgi, that's stem changing. And you're going to be like, Andreas, what is stem changing? No. Okay, it's stem changing. Okay. Oh, no, this one's almost regular. And you say, okay, this one's almost regular. And now we're talking on the same language, right?
Okay,
we're talking on the same
terminology.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, the terminology, exactly. Very good. All right, Georgi, have a great day. Take care. All right?
You too. Thanks.
All right,
bye.
See you. All right, bye-bye.